All right, before we get started, red subscribe button, notification bell, all those things that I tell you to do every week. Please do that so people watch the videos. Francis Lawrence is a director who's produced some films with decidedly mixed results. I use that phrase a lot, mixed results. Definitely applies to this movie, sort of mostly applies to his career. He directed Constantine, probably the first notable movie of his. It's pretty good. You know, it's Keanu Reeves doing Keanu Reeves shit. And the guy from Bush is in that movie, Gavin Rossdale. He's like a bad guy, a demon. Peter Stormare is in it. I think he plays Satan, if I'm remembering it correctly. Movie's fine. It's fine. It's not... I don't think it's all that memorable. There are people that love that movie. I'm not one of those people. He then directed I Am Legend, a Will Smith movie. Will Smith is really good in it. It's based on a book, a novel, and it completely just destroys the ending. The ending is terrible, and there's like a director's cut that's way better. The movie has some incredible tension, and yet the special effects are like next level bad. A theme that will continue into Francis Lawrence's career in certain films, like this one. So then he was tasked with directing the second and third Hunger Games, which means the second movie, Catching Fire, as well as its two, the Mockingjay, which is split up into two parts. And splitting that movie up into two parts didn't really do it much good because it just felt like an unnecessary cash grab, which, let's be honest, it was. I love Catching Fire. I think Catching Fire is one of the best movie-going experiences I had ever. I loved seeing that movie in the theater. I thought it was tremendous. Jennifer Lawrence really was perfect in that. The first Hunger Games, couldn't tell you that much about it. I remember being kind of like, this movie is trying to be like really graphic with the violence and not doing a very good job at it. Sequel is much better. And then Mockingjay, I remember just being like, this is fine. This is fine. And that kind of defines Francis Lawrence as a director. And then, so now all this time later, those movies are out. They're out for a long time. And we get the inevitable prequel. And here's part of the problem with this. This movie is like 2 hours and 40 minutes long. Maybe, I think it's like 2 hours and 37 minutes. And yet it somehow manages to completely butcher the pacing because Francis Lawrence has talked about his regret of splitting Mockingjay into two parts. And so this film simply tries to cram way too much into its runtime, and yet if you were going to split a movie into two parts, this is the movie split into two parts, because there is a very distinct point where this movie comes to a climax, and then another movie starts, and then there's a climax to that movie, and then the movie ends. So there's like two very distinct and clear and separate movies here that are crammed into one. And it almost feels like he's trying to make up for what he did with Mockingjay in this movie. And the acting is okay. The guy who plays Snow, this movie is about the formation and young life of the man who becomes President Snow. And the actor is not a very good actor. Rachel Zegler is like the love interest who they're like teamed up. He's like her mentor. She comes from the district. He's from the capital. And instead of like the Hunger Games being about straight up just kids murdering each other, it's about like the mentors. And there's this whole subplot with that and with the creator of the Hunger Games, who's played by Peter Dinklage, who's actually pretty good in what he's asked to do here. But I don't find any of the characters interesting. The movie feels long, and yet somehow manages to completely just ruin the pacing because everything is happening so fast. None of the moments that are meant to have emotional gravitas and impact do, because they're all just rushed. Scenes between transitions are a mess. And this movie also has the single most awful piece of CGI that I've seen in a movie in a long time. I reviewed last week Dracula -1, a movie that does incredible stuff with a modest $15 million budget. I know $15 is a lot of money, but for a major Hollywood movie, or major, it's not a Hollywood movie, a major international film, Godzilla Minus One does it all with a small budget. This movie does absolutely nothing with a massive budget. It's got some decent shots and perspectives and cinematography very much at the end of the movie. But yeah, this movie is just all over the place. The tone is a mess. The runtime it just works against the movie in so many ways. Viola Davis is pretty good as like the creepy game master. Jason Schwartzman is like the younger Flickerman. I guess Flickerman's father or grandfather. He's like the host of the Hunger Games. And it's based off of the book that Suzanne Collins wrote. And I don't really care because honestly, I had to look up, like, the script, and the movie is kind of such a mess that I had to look up and see if there was a book that she wrote as a prequel, and turns out there was. So, yeah, I don't like this movie. I wanted to. I love Catching Fire, like the original trilogy enough, but yeah, this movie just sucks, and you probably shouldn't watch it. Thanks so much for watching this review, though. If you liked it, found it helpful, I hope you consider subscribing. Sorry, I'm really tired. If it looks like it, I am. And let me know what you think of the movie, or I'm sorry, of the review in the comments. Have a great day and a good week, and I'll see you next Wednesday at 9 a.m. per our usual arrangement.